Okay, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith. In this video, I'm going to discuss how point sparring teaches you very bad habits that are going to get you beat up or possibly killed in a self-defense situation. Um, First of all, real karate teaches both striking, blocking, grappling arts, both standing and ground game grappling, and throws and different leg sweeps and reaps and takedowns. Okay. Real karate teaches a holistic combat system. If you ever seen Jesse Encamp's video on the Bubishi, which is basically the karate Bible, they used to teach all of this under one roof years ago, as I was taught back in the early and late 1990s and early 2000s, because I had good instructors that taught everything under one roof. They taught Japanese jiu-jitsu and Gracie jiu-jitsu and karate and judo all under one roof, okay, and aikido. So uh, the first more obvious problem with point sparring and with the Karate Combat League that we have now, Karate Combat with a K league that you see on YouTube, and other supposedly full contact arts, is that they're not even full contact. They don't allow most forms of grappling. They definitely don't allow joint locks, and the combat is fake. It's not representative of real skill and real martial arts, because real street fights and real military fights involve all skills combined into one blend of deadly martial arts. And we don't see that in karate combat. What we see is some knockouts and a little bit of ground game that they allow for 5 seconds or so, depending on which rule set they use, because they change their rules so often I forget. But almost no ground game in karate combat. It's supposedly full contact, but it's mostly just striking. So let's start with point sparring itself, because point sparring is the most glaring and blatantly obvious example of this. Some problems with point sparring, even from a striking perspective, they're pulling their punches because there's a rule that you can't hit your opponent full force. You're not allowed to knock somebody out. If you knock somebody out and you get disqualified, which is stupid. You won the fight, but you're going to get disqualified because you knocked them out. All right. So in a real fight, your first several strikes might not finish your opponent off in a real fight, especially if they're bigger than you. So you need experience on how to deal with opponents of different sizes and weight classes. That's another thing. Weight classes don't exist in the real world. The bully at school might be 50 pounds bigger than you. The guy at the bar that's drunk that might be about to beat the hell out of you might be 100 pounds bigger than you as an adult, because he might be 265 pounds and you might be a 165, 170 pounder or whatever. So you need to know how to fight somebody that's of a different weight class than yourself. So weight classes in sports is ruining martial arts. You need to know what it takes to beat somebody that's bigger than yourself. You also need to know what it takes to beat somebody who's smaller and faster than you are, because they might land hits on you that surprise you. So that works both ways. So real fights, almost all fights historically, according to police reports, almost all self-defense situations end up on the ground at some point within about 10 seconds or so, according to real-world police reports as of the early and late 1990s. I don't know if anything's changed in the way fights evolve in the real world now, but somebody's going to the ground, so you better know how to fight on the ground, but you better learn how to not be the one to hit the ground first. You better learn to be the one on top or in the standing position when the grounded position happens, because in a real fight, it's also not necessarily one-on-one, or maybe other attackers that are going to club you in the back of the head while you're grappling with the first guy. So it's not a good idea to go to the ground, even if you are a superior grappler. All right. So again, one time, unfortunately, right around the time that the COVID-19 outbreak happened, I had joined a Shotokan dojo because I thought it was the only karate dojo around here with at least a somewhat reputable teacher. And he was, in fact, the 1982 world champion in Shotokan Kumite, which is basically point sparring. But the only thing he taught in his dojo was point sparring and kata, and he didn't even teach the bunkai of the kata. He just taught rote memorization of the kata, and that was it. So, needless to say, I only paid for 1 month and quit because it was not teaching me anything that I didn't already know better. Uh, there is, in fact, an Ishinru Karate and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu dojo in Hammond. I live by Springfield, which is about, I don't know, he's deep into Hammond, so it might be as much as 8 miles away from here. But be that as it may, I've talked to uh, the co-owner of the gym, and she said that they would require me to start back over as a white belt if I joined, and I don't want to do that because I am, in fact, or was when I was healthy, a black belt candidate, and I have the head knowledge of a black belt, even though I'm physically disabled now, and would mostly be doing this as a refresher and as a means of exercise with supervision to make sure I don't kill myself, but by over exercising. But because I've had 4 strokes and some other medical problems, and I'm lucky and thank God that I can even speak. To be honest with you, but at any rate, they wanted me to start back over as a white belt, and I'm like, I really don't want to do that because that's freaking insulting. That I'm going to be one of the most knowledgeable students in your class, but you're going to demote me to white belt simply because I've been out of practice for a few decades, which is silly. Primarily because I forgot the katas, and the katas are not as important as the skills they're meant to teach. So because I forgot the correct sequencing of the katas, they're going to demote me to white belt, but I still have all the head knowledge of the individual techniques. So it doesn't make sense that I got to start back over as white belt. It would take a year or two to get back to where I'm supposed to be from white belt according to the minimum standards, which is, I don't know if I want to put myself through that again. Um, But they do teach Japanese Jiu Jitsu and Gracie Jiu Jitsu and Ishinru Karate all under one roof there. So it's very tempting to join the place. Um, uh, what did I want to say? So in point sparring, since you're not getting hit full force either, since neither you nor your opponent is getting hit full force, you're not learning what it takes to stand up to an enemy punch or kick and how to avoid an enemy punch or kick correctly, and why sometimes it's okay to take a hit, assuming you're able to use it as a trapping technique to gain a superior position over your opponent. Those sorts of things become important in full contact fighting. And like I said, karate combat is not true full contact karate, even though it claims it is, because it bans most of the grappling moves, especially the standing grappling, and only allows 5 seconds worth of grounded grappling. Uh, it's not true full contact fighting. I don't know how else to put it. Um, uh, and I kind of want to blame Frank Dukes and Jean Claude Van Damme for the Bloodsport movie because there's like one realistic fight in Bloodsport, and the rest of the fights in there are all garbage. Especially the last fight is extremely garbage because he fights blind and wins because the other guy cheats. That's silly and nonsensical stuff that doesn't even belong in the movie. Especially since it was claiming to be a docudrama of Luke's life, and we now know he's a fraud. All right, but it popularized this notion that fights were just all about striking, and in fact they're not. Now I'm a very good striker when I spar repeatedly, and I'm really an A+ striker. All right, I can land my punches when I want to, and I can block whenever I want to, and I can land my straight kicks whenever I want to. Now I'm getting pretty old to be full contact fighting, especially since I've had strokes and stuff like that. But uh because I turned 46 this year in December. But the point being that I know how to fight and I know how to teach you how to fight if somebody would listen to me. Now, other things that are lacking in point sparring and also lacking in karate combat are joint locks, no throws or takedowns, no leg sweeps or reaps. That sort of stuff is all lacking in point sparring and in karate combat. And the truth is, it's lacking for no good reason. There are safe throws and takedowns that can be used in judged corrupt martial arts competitions, uh, such as judo. all right, um, that are safe for competition, safe for full contact competition, and yet they're banned anyway for really no apparent reason other than the host just doesn't like those techniques for some reason. And those techniques are the ones that are going to save your life in a real street fight or schoolyard self defense situation or life and death street self defense situation or barroom fight or whatever the case. They're going to save your life, limb, or face from getting cut up from a beer bottle hitting you in the head. They're going to save your life and end the fight when you need to end the fight, especially one on one or even one on two. But they're banned from most forms of competition. And don't even get me started on pro boxing. Wow, anybody can learn to throw a jab, cross, hook, uppercut. I'm sorry, there's almost no skill in pro boxing, and I actually beat the only pro boxer I ever fought by boxing rules. So, you know, and I was only a light green belt in karate at that time, which is halfway by belt rank to black belt, but only about 1/20th of the way by time invested to get to black belt. Well, actually more like 1/5, but whatever the case, it's like 1/5 of the way to black belt by time spent, but halfway to black belt by belt rank is more realistic about how that worked out. And I beat the only pro boxer I ever fought by boxing rules. So, it's pretty easy to learn boxing. If you know karate, you know with boxing. If you know boxing, you don't know karate. And by the way, the proof of that is that Naoya Inoue is trained by his own father, who was a world karate champion. And Inoue fights with a karate style stance and a karate style vertical fist punch. All right. And he's actually one of the greatest boxers of all time, but he was trained by a karate fighter, not a traditional Western boxing coach. So there's proof in the pudding that if you're a good karate fighter, you will be a good boxer. But if you're a good boxer, you won't necessarily be a good karate fighter without having at least additional training in karate. All right, let's see. I'm in the 12th minute of this video, I think. Yeah. Uh, And so, yeah, the problem is in karate combat, they allow calf kicks, but they don't allow thigh kicks. And there's no true takedowns, at least not that I've seen. Basically, you just capitalize on the fact that your opponent loses his balance sometimes. Maybe there's a sweep allowed. I don't know. They've changed the rules a few times. But it's still, there's no true grappling in karate combat. It's silly. And then, like, if you've ever seen bare knuckle boxing versus dirty boxing, in dirty boxing, you're allowed to use elbow strikes, but not knee strikes or kicks. And so dirty boxing is even more realistic than bare knuckle boxing. And then UFC right now is the ultimate realistic, semi-realistic fight because there's still hundreds of banned moves in MMA. And so, and some of them don't seem to be banned for any reason other than to artificially lengthen the fights, to be honest with you. Some of the moves are banned for safety reasons, but some of them are banned for artificial conceptual reasons that make no sense to me as a true martial artist. It's like, I'm pretty sure this is not a safety issue. They've had people's jaws get broken by rear naked choke attempts. They've had people lose their eyeball before. They've had people get their leg broken clean in half and their nose broken along two different axes in one fight. And so that level of injury happens with the rules as they are. So why are you afraid of some other injury that might potentially exist that is not lethal and isn't as bad as those injuries? I mean, I'm pretty sure losing an eyeball is about the worst injury you can have short of death in a fight because that's permanent. All right. And they've actually had more than one person lose an eyeball in the UFC. So, it happens.